Hello, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Climate Career Kit. I am your host, Aishani Garg. Today I'm joined by Kayalin Akens-Irby, the head of growth at Planet FWD. We are so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, I understand that you work with climate tech and ESG investing. What does that entail, and what impact do these things have on our environment?
Yeah. So I've always been somebody who's obsessed with creating change at scale. And one of the places that I've specifically focused my career is in private market solutions. ESG investment is investing with socially responsible principles in mind, things like environmental management, ethics, compliance, basically finding ways for companies to continue to grow and make profit, but to do so in a more sustainable way. And Planet FWD is the company that I've been building alongside Julia Collins, who's our founder for the last 4 years. It's a climate tech company. And so it's an impact company inherently. What it does is carbon accounting for the consumer industry. So we're focused on basically measuring the carbon footprint of consumer businesses, food and beverage, beauty, personal care, fashion, and helping those companies to reduce their carbon footprint. We do that through software, ultimately with a goal of reducing the almost 60% of global emissions that result from those industries.
Mhm.
So that's some of the ways that kind of companies themselves can actually create positive impact and work on tackling climate change.
Yeah, of course. So you work as the head of growth within Planet FWD. So what
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things do you personally do within that role?
Yeah. So I've been with Planet FWD since the earliest days, really when we were just an idea. So my role has changed over time. When I first started, I came in as the chief of staff to our CEO and founder. Her name's Julia Collins. She was actually the first Black woman to ever found a billion-dollar company with her previous company. So I joined then. It was really an idea. We didn't have a software yet. We didn't have customers yet. So back then, my work consisted of things like determining what our solution set should be and determining what markets we were going to approach and why, helping with fundraising, pitching investors, and explaining why our company was going to become what it is today. And now I've transitioned into being the head of growth, which means I lead the growth strategy for our company. Things like new customer acquisition, understanding what markets we're going to enter into, and how we'll be successful there. I also personally pitch and sell many of the customers that become Planet FWD customers. A big part of what I do is also building out the ecosystem that drives growth for Planet FWD. So we work on decarbonizing the consumer sector. And a big part of those companies is the fact that they have global supply chains. If you're a retailer, then you purchase from different brands. If you're a brand, then you purchase from different material providers or ingredient producers. And one of the things that's really important, both for growth of Planet FWD and for impact in the industry, is connecting those players so they can help each other decarbonize. So I'm simultaneously growing the impact of our business while trying to architect solutions to help the industry decarbonize.
Wow, that's a lot of different things that you do within that one role. So
Yeah.
when did you first become interested in sustainability or climate science? And did you know going into college that this is what you wanted to do, or did you decide that kind of later?
Yeah. So I grew up in California, and a big part of my upbringing was going to the beach, playing in the mountains, things that, made nature one of my first homes. And I've always been passionate about climate and the environment. In high school, I did my senior thesis essentially on stopping deforestation. I even pitched a startup idea I had in high school that was called My Earth, which was essentially a personal carbon accounting platform that gave people a digital earth that showed what their personal impact is based on their lifestyle choices. So I was always really interested in this work. I didn't know what that was going to materialize into in terms of a career. So when I went to college, I got a Gates scholarship that was specifically focused on creating the next generation of leaders in the world, with this idea that those that are going to go out and solve some of our largest issues, whether that be climate change or hunger or poverty are going to have to do so through an intersectional lens. And that means, you can't solve hunger just with food. You can't solve climate change just with science. So I was required to major in a science and at least one other thing. So I majored in environment, economics, and politics. I really loved it. I loved understanding how systems come together to create change, whether that be economic factors or policy changes and how those have implications for the environment. I explored a couple different paths in my undergrad. I did an internship for a private land conservation organization. I did reef research and published a guide to marine ecosystems in the Indo-Pacific region. All the while through that work, I was recognizing that I'm somebody who likes to move fast. I'm somebody who likes to be able to, make impact in a big way. And so I knew that going into, leaving college, I was going to need to focus probably in more of the corporate private sector if I wanted to create that type of change. So I went into ESG investment in private equity directly out of college. At the time, it was really nascent. It was a really small space. It was niche. Some of my friends are even like, what is that? But I really believed. And the reason for that is that, private equity investors buy companies and then they become basically the steward of that company. So if you're a PE firm and you have an ESG mandate that says the companies in our portfolio need to be more sustainable in these ways, or need to have climate goals such as X, or need to have at least 50% females or women on their boards and leadership teams, then those companies have to do that because their owner said so. And I was like, yep, I see that. I see that. I'm gonna go get involved in that. And so I joined a firm that was really small at the time. It was about 8 people when I joined, and ESG investment really exploded. In my first 3 years out of college, it grew to be 75 people within my first 3 years. And I became, one of the very few women, certainly only Black women, as part of our leadership team quite quickly early on in my career, which has allowed me to move a lot faster in my upward trajectory. So I was loving my career at Malk. I was loving my career in ESG investment. And through that job, I got introduced to a woman named Julia Collins. And at the time, she was thinking about starting a climate tech company. And that was a really pivotal moment in my career. I felt like I could continue on the path that I was on and stay in private equity and continue to grow in a growing space, or I could join a woman who looked like me, felt like me, was embodying all of the things that I really wanted to see happen in the world: female leadership, being a working mother, being a Black woman thriving, being an entrepreneur, raising venture capital in a world where less than 2% of venture capital dollars goes to Black female founders, or female founders at that. And so I chose to join Julia at that point, and it was a risky move. It was a really early stage company. But the upside for me was that I would learn how to build a business from scratch. So at that point in time, I chose to join Planet FWD. We had an extremely small team. We were building the software for the first time. We were building out our growth strategy, all of the things from scratch. And I learned really, really quickly. And that's really where I think I also stepped into my full confidence as an individual and as an executive. And so we've now grown the company to serve over 100 customers. We raised a $10 million Series A round. We started serving food and beverage companies only with our carbon accounting software, and now we've expanded into apparel and more consumer verticals. We started in North America. We're expanding into Europe. This role has taken me all over the world as a speaker and as a thought leader, but more importantly, allows me to wake up every single day with my passion and purpose really married to exactly what I do. And I get to work with incredible people that bring me joy and inspire me every day. And so this is the current state of where we're at, building Planet FWD, trying to decarbonize the consumer sector. But I will definitely be a lifelong innovator, thinker, strategist, entrepreneur, focused on solving climate change for my full career.
Yeah, that's an incredible journey. And it was so great to hear how you went from college all the way to your job and you're making a big impact. So our last question is, what advice do you have for a high school student who is maybe interested in pursuing sustainability? And what opportunities do you know of that they can take advantage of in high school to help them within that?
Yeah. So, my advice to anyone in high school that wants to get involved in sustainability or climate is basically one of two things. I think that the best solutions that exist related to solving climate change or the environment are very much rooted in science. And they're rooted in understanding systems deeply and understanding what's wrong with them and what's contributing to the problems we have today, and therefore what the opportunities are to improve. And so the first piece of advice would be to become an expert in something. Become an expert in circularity, become an expert in fashion, become an expert in engineering, so that you can deeply understand different industries, different systems, and therefore could identify what opportunities there are to improve them. That's where some of the most innovative technologies, companies, ideas come from that are helping us combat the climate crisis. The second option is follow your passion and become great at something. That might be marketing, that might be communications, that might be software development, that might mean management. Whatever it is, just get really, really good at something that can be an asset to a company that is working on solving these issues. Because every business that is working on solving these problems just needs to succeed, needs to thrive, and needs great talent in order to do that. And so passion coupled with being a really, really strong hire in any way is what climate companies are looking for right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We really appreciated it. And to all the listeners, make sure to tune in to the next episode of the Climate Career Cast. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was great.